Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. The U.S. enters its second day of a government shutdown. As the blame game continues, the White House hinting that these government agencies will be slashed. We talked to a lawmaker about the impacts and how we got here. President Trump deciding which agencies and projects to cut amid the government shutdown. What Trump says the agencies he's considering. A terror attack on a synagogue in the UK leaves 2 dead and 3 seriously wounded. Police say they have identified the attacker and have arrested 2 additional suspects. Russia says peace in Ukraine hasn't come closer after a presidential summit in Alaska. We bring you more on the current state of the peace efforts and potentially more U.S. weapons for Ukraine. Attorney General Pam Bondi and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth go to Memphis as federal law enforcement agencies ramp up operations to fight crime in the city.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
And thank you for staying with us. The political messaging war continues as the government shutdown reaches its second day. And the White House signaling that certain government agencies will be cut. We now go live to NTD's Washington correspondent, Mari Otsu, who's at the White House. Good afternoon, Mari. What is the White House saying about layoffs?
Don, good afternoon. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt this morning says it's likely that thousands of federal workers will be laid off. And while the president doesn't have any public events on his schedule today, he announced this morning on Truth Social that he'll be meeting later today with Russ Vought, the director of the Office of Management and Budget, to determine which federal agencies will be cut. And in his Truth Social post, President Trump called most of these Democrat agencies a, quote, political scam, and says that these cuts might be temporary or permanent. That's something they'll be determining in that meeting. Here's the press secretary this morning saying which agencies those will be. Watch.
Look, we're going to look at agencies that don't align with the administration's values that we feel are a waste of the taxpayer dollar. And so the president wants to be a good steward of the American taxpayer dollar during a time when our balance sheet is looking very grim because the Democrats chose to shut the government down.
Russ Vought on Wednesday told House Republicans that those mass firings of federal workers will start in, quote, a day or two. And while President Trump has said that a shutdown was the last thing that he wants to do, he also says that he can't believe that, quote, radical left Democrats are giving him this opportunity to get rid of certain agencies. He writes on Truth Social, maybe this is their way of wanting to make America great again. Don.
And Mari, what's the latest on the letters the White House sent to those 9 universities?
Sure, Don. So yesterday, the White House sent letters to 9 elite universities offering them priority access to federal funds if they agree to make massive changes to their campus culture, hiring and admissions processes, and foreign student enrollments. So the memo demands that schools create more welcoming culture for conservatives on campus and cut departments that spark violence against conservative ideas. It also requires that the schools freeze their tuition for 5 years and ban the use of sex and race in admissions processes. The letters are being sent as President Trump has battled for months with elite universities over claims of anti-Semitism on campus and concerns about diversity practices. Columbia and Brown University have struck multi-million-dollar deals recently with the administration. And here's President Trump on Tuesday saying he's close to finalizing that deal with Harvard. Take a look.
I guess we reached a deal with Harvard today, so we'll see how that, all you have to do is paper it, right, Linda? Just
yes, sir.
Paper it out. So this would be a giant trade school, series of trade schools. It would be run by Harvard. Now, this is something that we're close to finalizing. We haven't done it yet. But they put up $500 million. Interest and everything else would go to that account, meaning go to the trade school.
So any minute now, we are expecting new details about that $500 million Harvard University settlement. And it sounds like, from what the president is saying, part of that deal will be creating a network of trade schools under Harvard's name. Don, back to you.
Okay, Mari, thank you. While the government remains shut, the Trump administration is placing holds on some federal funding. Billions of dollars in projects have been paused or canceled. Here are the details on that.
The Department of Energy has announced more than 200 renewable energy projects are being canceled. The move, it says, will save taxpayers more than $7.5 billion. The administration says it will cut climate-related funding across 16 states, including for projects in California, New York, and Massachusetts. White House Budget Director Russ Vought described the cancellations as ending what he called Green New Scam funding. This comes as President Trump said on social media that Republicans should make use of the shutdown to clear out, quote, dead wood, waste, and fraud. Trump said billions could be saved. In New York City, $18 billion in federal support for the Hudson River Tunnel and the 2nd Avenue subway has been put on hold. Vought said the step was taken to ensure spending was not based on what he called unconstitutional DEI principles. The Transportation Department said Wednesday it was reviewing whether any unconstitutional practices were occurring at the two projects.
Unfortunately, the previous administration had loaded up every grant agreement with their own social justice priorities, none of which were required by statute.
New York Governor Kathy Hochul told reporters Wednesday that Washington has decided to put their interpretation of proper culture ahead of the country's needs.
President Trump will be meeting with Russ Vought, director of the Office of Management and Budget, amid the government shutdown. In a post on Truth Social today, Trump said he will meet with Vought and determine which of the many Democrat agencies he recommends cutting. Trump called most of the agencies a, quote, political scam and said he and Vought will determine whether the cuts are temporary or permanent. Trump added that Democrats had given him this unprecedented opportunity by not voting in favor of a stopgap funding bill. In an interview with One America News set to air today, Trump also commented on his plan.
Well, there could be firings, and that's their fault, and it could also be other things. I mean, we could cut projects that they wanted, favorite projects, and they'd be permanently cut. So you could say, a lot of people are saying Trump wanted this, that I wanted this closing, and I didn't want it. But a lot of people are saying it because I'm allowed to cut things that should have never been approved in the first place, and I will probably do that.
Vought has said that federal workers could expect mass firings within a day or two. According to a memo circulated by his office, agencies should prepare for major reduction in force plans. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ opened at record highs today following weaker than expected private payroll data yesterday. The news fueled hopes for interest rate cuts even as the government shuts down, limits economic reporting. Traders are relying on alternative data, including yesterday's ADP jobs report, which showed a decline of 32,000 private sector jobs in September. The shutdown has forced the postponement of key government reports. That includes weekly jobless claims and Bureau of Labor Statistics data. That leaves investors to weigh corporate earnings and market trends instead. Despite the data gap, the S&P 500 and Dow Jones reached record highs yesterday, and optimism about AI and rate cuts continue to support equities. Precious metals surged with gold trading above $3,900 an ounce as investors sought safe havens amid economic uncertainty. The government shutdown has put the brakes on the flow of federal economic data, but history shows the economy usually doesn't suffer when the government is closed. Here's why.
The U.S. government shutdown has thrown the brakes on the flow of federal economic data at a moment of uncertainty. But if history is any guide, the shutdown itself is unlikely to have a lasting impact on the U.S. economy. Part of the reason is the previous 20 shutdowns have been short, lasting about a week or less. They are a headache for the Federal Reserve, especially now as policymakers seek clarity on the employment picture and inflation. Those policymakers won't get the monthly jobs report and other data until the government reopens. They will have to rely on private surveys. Sometimes those are viewed as a poor proxy for the government data. The Fed cut interest rates last month for the first time since December on growing concern about the job market. Financial markets see a near certainty of another rate cut at the central bank's next meeting this month. Though Bonrion Capital Management founder and CEO Shana Orzik-Sizzle says the shutdown could impact this.
I do think the lack of economic data of some of the larger economic data points that the Fed pays attention to could delay the Fed from cutting further.
Meanwhile, even though hundreds of thousands of federal workers are on furlough and a range of important government services are suspended, shutdowns themselves don't typically move the needle for the economy. It depends on what's happening around the shutdown. Stocks took a hit during the last shutdown in 2018, but rebounded quickly, according to Robert Conzo, CEO and managing director of the Wealth Alliance.
Last one was during the Trump era, was 35 days from December of 18 to January of 19. The market dropped, and it started a week before the actual shutdown, so there was a lot of anticipation. Dropped around 15%, then quickly came back and rose past that. Typically, there's headline risk, markets drop, but then they typically come back.
It's day 2 of the government shutdown. The House and Senate are not voting on bills today, and both Republicans and Democrats appear dug in on their positions as hundreds of thousands of federal workers are at risk of being furloughed or laid off. Our Washington correspondent, Luis Eduardo Martinez, has more.
They have made a decision that they would rather give taxpayer-funded benefits to illegal aliens than to keep the doors open for the American people, to keep vital services, veteran services, healthcare and nutrition for women, infants, and children. They would rather not pay the troops and TSA agents and Border Patrol agents. They would rather stop services of FEMA in the middle of a hurricane season than to do the right thing.
Speaker of the House Mike Johnson detailed how the Democratic proposal to reopen the government would repeal parts of the One Big Beautiful bill that closed the loopholes that allowed for non-citizens to access taxpayer-sponsored health care.
Donald Trump and Republicans shut the federal government down because they don't want to provide health care to working class Americans.
Democrats have not shied away from publicly stating that they forced a government shutdown because Republicans, who are in the majority in the House and in the Senate, would not acquiesce to their policy demands.
The reason we're having this government shutdown is because Democrats are standing up for health care for Americans and their families, and Republicans are refusing to change direction.
Republicans are open to negotiate the extension of health care tax credits under the Affordable Care Act, but not while the government is shut down.
All the pressure should be on the 44 Democrats who are dug in to try to pander to the far left corner of their base. That's what this is. How important is it to appeal to the radical left of your base and hurt Americans? Because if they drag this on through the weekend, more and more people will be hurt.
Some 750,000 federal workers are at risk of being furloughed, and thousands are at risk of losing their jobs altogether if the administration is forced to enact reductions in force of agencies and departments if the government shutdown continues. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
And joining us now is Republican Congresswoman Beth Van Dyne of Texas. So, Congressman, such a pleasure to have you here today. How are you doing?
Great to be here. Good to see you.
So, you know, it's day 2 of the government shutdown, right? Democratic lawmakers still at odds with Republican lawmakers. We'll see how the vote goes on Friday, but I just want to start here. A White House memo is saying that, Democrats have shut down the government over free health care for illegals. It says that their CR proposal will spend nearly $200 billion, with the B, on healthcare subsidies for illegal immigrants and other non-citizens. So, Congresswoman, can we get your thoughts on the situation as of right now?
Well, I think it's more than just the $200 billion that they're looking to spend. It's a $1.5 trillion cost if you went through their wish list of demands. I think the Republicans very clearly do not want to shut the government down. Trump administration, the president do not want to shut the government down. We did our job. We passed a very clean CR, which Democrats have supported. They supported it the entire time that Biden was in office. They voted on something very similar 13 times now. What they're trying to do is reverse, the bills that we have passed since Trump has been in office. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous that this is the hill that they're willing to die on. They are not looking out for their citizens. They're not looking out for even federal workers. They are choosing instead to defend people who are in our country illegally.
Okay, Congressman, let me ask you if this sounds reasonable to you. Let's keep the government open, and then we can talk about whether it's healthcare or spending later. Even Vice President J.D. Vance.
I was going to say, you sound exactly like Vice President Vance. That's exactly what he's been talking about.
Yeah, Democrats have some points that are worth discussing, but let's keep services running and federal employees paid.
No, I think what they'd rather do is hold the entire country hostage. This has been done before. This is not new, but it's crazy that every single time we can do the right thing, they choose to defend the wrong people and not do the right thing by the American people. We've got 1.3 million active military that are going to go without pay. You've got 100,000 federal law enforcement officers that are going to go without pay. You've got 13,000 air traffic controllers that are going to go without pay. You've got WIC benefits that is going to run out of funding next week. You've got telehealth services for seniors that's going to stop with this shutdown. If you're concerned about the American people, allow the government to stay open, and let's exactly have these conversations like adults. But instead, what they're doing is they're kind of throwing a tantrum. We've seen it before, and they're holding the American people and the American government hostage.
And you mentioned a great point earlier that during the Biden administration, there were 13 instances, right, where Democrats voted for short-term funding measures. I mean, how do you see this ending? House Speaker Mike Johnson saying that this is the same bill they voted before.
This is the same bill they voted before. And quite honestly, a lot of Republicans did not want to vote for it because it continues the same spending levels. And a number of us are trying to get back to pre-COVID level spending. So this was a compromise that Republicans made in order to keep the government shut down. But Democrats it's never good enough. They're going to continue to want more. So I think how this is going to end, I know that there are theories that this is going to last potentially months, weeks. I think it's going to be shorter than that. I think Democrats are going to recognize the fact that they're going to start getting calls from federal workers in their districts. But I think they're also going to recognize the fact that the Trump administration is not just going to stop and just wait patiently, that they're going to be very actively trying to right-size government. I think Carolyn Leavitt today and Russ Vought have been very clear that there's a strategy to be able to right-size government, and this provides them an opportunity to do that. Every single time we go into a government shutdown, what it does is it allows the administration to be able to have basically full control over the agencies. And we lose control as a Congress to be able to really have an influence. So I didn't want the Biden administration to have that much control, which is why I had supported some CRs in the past. I think it's really silly. I think it's reckless for the Democrats to do it. But if they're willing to do it, I know that this administration has a plan moving forward.
Okay, speaking of which, Congresswoman, can I get your reactions to some things? Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said that prior to the shutdown, that Republicans say it's our way or the highway. So, I mean, what do you think? Are Republicans engaging in a sort of take it or leave it approach to negotiations?
So again, if it was our way, I would have preferred to have had a lot more regulatory reforms associated with this. I would have had a lot more cuts in spending. I would like to go back to pre-COVID levels of spending in many areas. I would have had additional support for our military. There were a lot of things, if it was our way. This was a compromise bill. This was basically saying, you guys have already supported this 13 times. We are going to give this to you on a platter, and yet it still wasn't good enough.
On that point, Leader Schumer says that this continuing resolution was put forward without meaningful impact from Democrats, and that it contrasts with past negotiations where both parties had the opportunity to collaborate on funding bills. What is
I've been in Congress now for 5 years. There was never an opportunity for Republicans to be able to. They were never asked the Democrats never asked our opinion on this. We were not allowed to collaborate. It was basically our way or the highway under the Democrats, and that is not what this bill was. This was a simple short-term, funding mechanism to allow the government to stay open while negotiations continued. It was the responsible thing to do, and Democrats just cannot do the right thing. They're going to continue to hold the American public hostage, hold the government shut until they get their ridiculous, nonsensical wish list of priorities that they want, that basically acts as if the November election never happened.
Okay, Congresswoman, can I just ask you one more question? Sure. From your vantage point, what do you think, what are the impacts of a shutdown that you are most concerned about?
Well, again, I mean, it's all the things, the list that I just sent you. The $1.5 trillion is what they want, but there are folks who are going to be going without a paycheck. There are programs that we're going to run out of money. And I know and I trust the Trump administration that they're trying to prioritize and have those programs that affect American people front and center. They're trying to do their best to be able to prioritize the resources to go to those. But at some point in time, we are going to run out of money. And that is a concern. I would hope that the Democrats cared about that. But what we're going to have to do is figure out those resources. And they have talked about potential right sizing, which means not furloughs, but actually reductions in workforce. So I think you're going to start seeing federal employee numbers decrease.
Well, Congresswoman Van Dyne, thank you so much for your time today. It's such a pleasure to speak with you.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Now, we know a big part of what makes this shutdown different from previous ones is that the Trump administration plans to pursue mass firings of federal workers. Details are sparse on how many or who exactly is the first on the chopping block. But White House says the cuts to the federal workforce are imminent. Reporters from several media outlets have pressed House Speaker Mike Johnson on if he feels at all responsible for these permanent firings that are soon to take place. Here's what he said.
Because they have decided to vote to shut the government down, they have now effectively turned off the legislative branch, the Article 2 branch of, or the Article 1, sorry, the Article 1 branch of our government, and they've turned it over to the executive, okay? So in that situation, when Congress turns off the funding and the funding runs out, it is up to the Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States, to determine how those resources will be spent. He has that responsibility given to him by the Democrats in the Senate. They can't complain about it.
Meanwhile, Democrats say the mass firings won't bully them into voting for the Republicans' clean stopgap funding bill. And joining us now to discuss the government shutdown is Emel Akan, senior White House reporter for the Epoch Times. Emel, thank you for joining us today. To start off, what's the latest on this shutdown?
Thanks, Don, for having me. Yes, we are on the second day of this shutdown, and as you can imagine, this is impacting federal workers, and the morale here in D.C. is low, but we are also seeing a full blame game, political blame game now on display, and especially as a person covering the White House every day, I see the White House's messages all the time, all these videos that they are posting on Truth Social and also on other social media websites. And also we are seeing at the White House briefing room new videos about Democrats and how they are viewed as by the White House as supporting illegal immigrants. And this is all about providing them health care this is solely for providing health care benefits for illegal immigrants, and that's the messaging we are seeing from the White House. And so I do not know when this will end. There's a vote tomorrow because of the Jewish holiday. They don't have any votes today, but we are seeing that the White House and also Republicans continue to blame Democrats for the government shutdown.
How central is funding for healthcare in this debate, and do we need to see movement on this issue for the stalemate to be broken?
Yeah, this is a good question. This is a very central issue, which is the extension of subsidies of the Obamacare, and just to remind our audience that these subsidies were introduced by the Biden administration during the COVID period to help families. Now they are going to end by the end of this year. And as your guest just said, the Congresswoman said it's going to cost $1.5 trillion according to the estimates. And this is a big policy shift. This is a big policy issue that needs to be discussed after the government is opened. This is where Republicans are, and that's what the White House wants. And so the health care issue is a significant policy issue that needs to be discussed after the government is funded. That's where the White House stands, and they do not have any intention of it sitting down and discussing this during this period. They have no intention to meet with Democratic leadership to debate or negotiate over this funding.
So J.D. Vance said yesterday he's focused on 5 additional Democrat votes. Who do you think will be among this number?
It's not very clear, but they are approaching moderate Democrats to see if they can draw them to their side. And we already saw 3 Democrats, 2 Democratic lawmakers and 1 independent in the Senate, voted together with Republicans to keep the government open. And we will see tomorrow if there are more moderate Democrats joining Republicans. We do not know yet, but they are individually approaching these members and making the case that this is not a suitable approach. It's going to cause a lot of pain. Many workers will be laid off, and so this is their approach. And in the meantime, they are giving this message. Republicans and the White House are trying to give the message that if this continues, if this is a prolonged shutdown, there will be a lot of people being laid off, and there will be economic pain for this city and also the overall country. The GDP will be hit, as Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said today. So they are giving this message to ensure that some moderate Democrats understand the pain and they can vote to open the government. That's where they are. That's where they stand at the moment.
So what do you think are the arguments that Vance might be putting forward to get those 5 or more votes?
We see a lot of people talking, especially from the administration, talking about the economic pain that will be, seen if we have this shutdown longer. For example, I heard Kevin Hassett in an interview saying something like $400 million being paid to government employees every day. $400 million every day. It's a significant amount of money if you think about daily and on a monthly basis. And if this money is not paid to employees, they will not be spending the money outside. So the consumption will go down in this area, and then the restaurants will be impacted. A lot of small businesses will be impacted. And overall, the whole economy will be hit. And in past shutdowns, we saw some impact on GDP growth. So this is the message that they're trying to give to Democrats. Also, there's no reason to, negotiate while the government is shut. And they want to open the government and sit down and negotiate. And I think they are giving signal. They're making sure that there's some willingness to negotiate these subsidies, these healthcare benefits, but it's not going to be done during the shutdown, and that's the clear message that they are giving. And I think we already see from some media commentators, Republicans are having the upper hand here, because the proposal that they have is a clean CR, a clean funding measure that has no attachment. So this clean measure that should be accepted by Democrats, and that's why they exude confidence. They feel like they have the upper hand here.
Is there an intention among Democrats to try to continue the shutdown longer than the previous record of 35 days during Trump's first term?
Well, it is a very interesting question. Nobody knows, and it's unclear because we are now seeing that a lot of Democrats are hesitating to agree because this is a very crucial issue for them. They want these subsidies to be extended. And as a minority party, this is the only leverage they have. There's no other leverage, and this is the part of democracy. And they have to basically use this tool to be able to get what they want. And there's no other way. And so I think they're seeing this as an important leverage, and there's no other way to convince the government, convince the administration to extend these Obamacare subsidies. So I don't know how long this will impact them or how long they can continue this fight. The only thing that can change this is that when we see massive layoffs, government employees being laid off, and when you see that, and when you see that as in the last shutdown, when you see people suffering, when you see some going to food banks, and you see all these videos, things might change, and we have to look and see who's winning the messaging game at that moment. So we don't know clearly how this will play out and how Democrats will, continue this shutdown. It's all about the impact and how we will see this impacting the federal workers.
And what's on your radar? What can we expect to see in the coming days?
We are going to watch how many Democrats are going to be voting with Republicans, and that's important to know, and how many moderate Democrats are planning to vote with Republicans to open the government, and what messages they are giving. I think it's going to be important. We are not seeing any movement from the White House to invite congressional leaders Republican and Democrats to meet with them and to find a solution. As I said earlier, the messaging game is going on, and the Republicans feel they have some leverage here, and so they will continue to basically tell Americans and tell that they're right. And continue to accuse the Democratic lawmakers. And we will see also Democrats doing the same, accusing Republicans. So I think we're going to watch and see.
Well, okay, Amel, always great to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
2 people were killed and 3 others seriously wounded in a synagogue attack in Manchester, UK today. Authorities said the suspect was killed by British police. The attack happened today on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. Greater Manchester Police said they were called to the Nation Park Synagogue, the Heaton Park, actually, this morning. The caller said he witnessed a car being driven toward bystanders and that one man had been stabbed. A police bomb squad was investigating a potential explosive device in the attacker's possession. Prime Minister Keir Starmer said he was shocked by the attack.
Additional police assets are being deployed to synagogues across the country, and we will do everything to keep our Jewish community safe. I've spoken to Mark Gardner of the CST and Andy Burnham, Mayor of Manchester, and I want to thank the emergency services for the speed of their response.
British police have declared today's attack on a synagogue near Manchester an act of terrorism. The UK's senior counter-terrorism officer said an investigation is underway.
At Counter-Terrorism Police, we're deploying all of our capabilities in response to what has happened. And we have resources from across our network involved. We will ensure every piece of intelligence and line of inquiry is interrogated.
Officers have made 2 arrests and have stepped up patrols across the country. Greater Manchester's police chief said that the assailant rammed his car into bystanders before attacking others with a knife. The police chief added that the suspect was wearing a vest that appears to show an explosive device. 4 people remain hospitalized. Meanwhile, London residents reacted to the attack. Watch.
No, people are not feeling safe. I'm not feeling safe. I'm not a Jew. I'm not gay. I'm an immigrant, but that was like 35 years ago. So I don't feel very safe.
Well, it's not good, is it? It's like a Christian having this kind of thing on Christmas Day or Easter. It's just an attack aimed specifically at that kind of person.
Meanwhile, police and security guards stood watch outside synagogues in New York City. Congregants gathered at historic temples, including Central Synagogue, Temple Emmanuel, and Fifth Avenue Synagogue. The NYPD posted on X saying the department was monitoring the developments in Manchester. The post read, quote, "At this time, there is no known nexus to NYC." The department said that increased patrols showed a visible police presence around city synagogues. The NYPD added, quote, "As always, if you see something, say something," followed by the tip line 1888 NYC SAFE. New York City is home to more than 1 million Jews, the world's largest Jewish population outside of Israel. And following the shutdown, states across the country have been scrambling to keep their national parks or monuments open to the millions of visitors that frequent them. A contingency plan released by the Department of the Interior says some national parks will stay partially open with reduced staffing and services. For example, Grand Canyon National Park in Arizona will remain open with some visitor services reduced. The Lincoln Memorial and Thomas Jefferson Memorial will still be fully accessible throughout the shutdown. And the governor of Colorado says all 8 of Colorado's national parks that collect fees will remain open until fee revenue runs out.